delicious. Made with your choice of chicken, shrimp, beef, veggies, or surf and turf. All entrees come with a house salad and your choice of one of 2 sides. Wednesday and Thursday evenings starting at 5. And enjoy Long Branch Steakhouse in beautiful downtown Gifford.
Wraps up with the Lions and 49ers on Monday Night Football, 8 Eastern, ABC and ESPN. Result doesn't matter for Detroit, set up for a winner-take-all game versus Minnesota Sunday night to determine the NFC North title, NFC 1 seed, and first-round playoff bye. Some may be surprised the Vikings are where they are, but should not be, notes ESPN's Dan Orlovsky.
Super talented. He's a mentally tough cat. He went to a place that has won an elite scheme. Kevin O'Connell is going to be, or very likely, the coach of the year in the NFL. The scheme is absolutely elite, and they've got unbelievable supporting cast.
Dano on Sam Darnold and the Vikings. The loser Sunday night winds up as the 5th seed in the NFC and has to go on the road wild card weekend.
Hey, it's Courtney Cronin. Coming up on Tuesday on Unsportsmanlike, the college football playoff quarterfinals are finally here. We'll tell you which teams we think have the best chance to advance. It's Unsportsmanlike, Tuesday at 6 a.m. Eastern, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Previously on ESPN Daily.
The A's are focusing on a move to Las Vegas.
It just felt too immediate. It was not how it should have been presented to the mayor.
It is disrespectful to string the city along this way.
We've spent the last 2 Tuesdays chronicling the death of a sports town.
First it was like sadness, and then it was kind of anger, and then it transpired to kind of more activism.
The crowd goes silent and now getting very loud at the Coliseum.
Next Thursday, the Athletics will play their final game in Oakland, the culmination of decades of mismanagement and misfortune that have seen the town lose its 3 biggest pro sports teams over a 5-year span.
They waited in the hotel lobby to confront John Fisher.
At one point he said, this has been harder for me than it has for you, believe me. And I just, at the moment, I couldn't believe he said that. I was like, wow.
So if you missed it, I encourage you to scroll back in the feed and give those episodes a listen. But today, we set aside all the drama between owners and executives and commissioners and politicians, and we put the focus where it belongs, on the memories and the emotions of the fans in Oakland who will soon be left behind.
I've met the majority of the friends that I have today through the Coliseum.
It's our home. This is all we have.
There's nothing I could say to that man that could ever change his mind or his feelings about what he's done.
I'm Clinton Yates. This is ESPN Daily. Tim Kewen, today it's Death of a Sports Town, Part 3. And before we get into it, let's remind the folks where we've been. Could you please give us a quick recap of our first 2 episodes, sir?
Sure, Clinton. I think we've established a few things already. For one, when you look at the details of how and why the owners of these 3 teams, the Warriors, the Raiders, and the Athletics, have left Oakland or are leaving Oakland, nothing about it was preordained. Certainly there were plenty of hurdles to overcome, and getting new stadiums built wasn't going to happen quickly or easily. But despite what might have been said by certain owners and their leagues over the years, avenues existed for all of these teams to stay. They could have made this happen had they really wanted to. But in the last episode, we spent a lot of time hearing the story of one fan, Jorge Leon, who led a protest movement and ultimately a pretty successful PR campaign against the A's and owner John Fisher. And those fan sentiments, that's where we wanted to pick things up today.
There are real people and real communities behind all of these stories. But Tim, you've been on this for years, and you've made a point to keep the fan perspective as part of all of your reporting. You've gotten to know a lot of people pretty well. Who do you want to tell us about first?
Well, you're right, Clinton. I've had conversations over the years, and especially over the last year and a half, and speaking to these fans about their memories of Oakland sports and what the teams meant to them and still mean to them. I mean, there's plenty about it that's fairly typical, right? It's like the average sports fan in Atlanta could have the same stories, and, Boston, St. Louis, whatever. But I do want to take some time here to dwell on some of that, because, for the past several years, when it comes to the perception of Oakland on the national level, those kinds of stories, they aren't at the forefront of the conversations. The news developments have all been focused on what the future holds. Those stories kind of, they drown out any real fan experience in Oakland. And I think it's central to what we're talking about. And, the person I want to start with today is a colleague of ours, Mark Spears.
How much time you got? I mean, are you guys already taping?
Yeah, I started rolling. So
no,
he covers the NBA for us, but he's a Bay Area native and until recently a dedicated fan of Oakland teams himself. And, for him, that Oakland fandom really started with the A's.
And my mom would get me a round trip ticket on BART, and I got a hot dog, chips, soda, and some sunflower seeds. And that's what held me for the day. I was in love with Ricky Henderson, and I used to try to steal bases like him.
And easy stolen base. Ricky Henderson is in there with another steal, his third of the night.
Jumping head first with my hands out. Just Ricky Henderson was that dude, man. He was that guy. He was everything to me as a kid.
Ricky was Mark's first sort of guy, but in talking to him, most of his real deep memories of Oakland sports centered on the Raiders.
I have a cousin that lives in Antioch, which is pretty far from Oakland. We had tickets in the Black Hole. That was where we got the bond during the season.
This Black Hole was a most unique fan experience.
Raider Nation has a special relationship with its team, and the heart of that relationship sits at the end zone, known as the Black Hole.
A very unfriendly looking place where everybody was friends. If that's sort of a paradox, so be it.
One of the most vocal and intimidating fan groups in the NFL.
All the fans wore black. It was a rule. And most of them wore costumes, crazy, elaborate costumes.
It was like a huge party, only that it's silver and black.
There was a guy that went by the Violator who wore a full football uniform with pads, and he had 3 spikes on each shoulder. Everybody's probably seen him on TV.
Sitting in the Black Hole, man, it was the coolest thing, even as bad as the team was. I would be mad after the game, but I don't know that I'll ever be in an environment that recreates how cool that was.
The Black Hole is home to one of the greatest characters, Darth Vader. I mean, come on. I'm a huge Star Wars guy. That was forever one of the most impressive things I've ever seen and continue to see to this day.
Yeah, they thought of everything. And beyond the Black Hole itself, I think just the general ambiance of a Raider game at the Coliseum sticks with him.
For the football games in Oakland, man, nobody had a tailgate like that. That was a big party, man.
Nobody.
Food was equally amazing, but the music, the dancing, the fun, the black and silver all over the place. And it always would crack me up how intimidated opposing fans would be.
I know my man Mark has spent a lot of time, Tim, talking to plenty sports stars with Oakland roots. This is why we turn to a guy like him. He's so well connected. So over the years, what kind of things has he heard guys say about the decline of pro sports in Oaktown?
Mark shared a wise prediction made by Oakland basketball legend Gary Payton Sr. One year, Mark was all excited about the Raiders making the playoffs.
I was at a Warriors game. Gary was there. The football team, you notice I don't say their name. The football team makes it to the playoffs. And I went up to Gary, excited about it, asking him if he was going to go. And he goes, man, I'm a Niners fan now. I ain't following them chumps no more. He said they moved on me one time and I was done, and they're going to move on you again. I always remember that he said that they're going to move on you again. They're going to break your heart again. And he was right. Anytime I see that logo from that silver and black logo. It was something I'll never know. I don't know too many things that I love so much that I hate so much now.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, it pains me every time I see that logo, especially like every time I drive past the Oakland Coliseum area, man. It's almost like I'm driving past a cemetery because there's just so many beautiful memories buried there.
You know, that reminds me of the time that my dad would told me about how the Washington Senators left D.C. in baseball twice, and therefore he never expected them to get another team because they just wouldn't start another one there, but they would expand. It did happen. So there is hope on some level. That's just me being a little bit of a bleeding heart. But who else did you talk to, Tim? Who else should we get to know in this town?
Well, let's maybe we take a trip into the stands, Clinton, and let's start with Brian Johansson. He's a longtime A's fan whose devotion to this team managed to take on more and more layers as the years wore on.
I grew up in the era, the shadow of the Billy Ball era, and then the birth of the Bash Brothers era.
And there's a drive to center. Back goes Shelby to the wall. It is gone. Grand slam home run for Jose Canseco. And look where he hit it. Over the
And this was an era of rebirth for the A's franchise. You know, Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire show up with this eye-popping power. They ride that power to stardom.
High drive up the alley in left center field, and this one is going to be gone. Home run, McGwire.
It was just so infectious. The green and gold and the white cleats and the wedding gown whites.
There it goes. Long drive, left field, home run, grand slam. Oakland wins 6-2.
It was like you were going to an NFL game. Like, have you ever been to a Monday night, Sunday night game? Like, man, that's what it was like going to an A's game.
There's a drive to left field. It's hit deep. It is gone. Holy Toledo. Has anyone ever done that? Ricky Henderson has homered to open the A's first inning for the second time.
You had Ricky Henderson, Canseco walking around. These guys were larger than life. They were literally like NFL players stuck on an MLB team. And like, nobody ever questioned the city. Nobody ever questioned the A's or anything. They were phenomenal.
Brian's fandom started taking on like almost an outward appearance. He was loud, he was brash, and then his profile got raised to another level one night in September of 2019. A's are playing the Tigers, second inning. Ramon Laureano comes to the plate.
So Profar with a hit, 2 on and 1 out. The Lacer is back. He'll get a nice ovation.
Batting in the 8th position, center fielder, number 22, Ramon Laureano.
He was out on injury for like a month, and we were leading all of baseball in hit by pitches, and he comes back. First at bat, he gets hit with a 95, 94 mile an hour fastball right in the back.
Brown at second, Profar at first, and that hits Laureano.
He throws his bat down, and I immediately stand up in my pin-covered vest looking like an idiot, and I'm screaming, "What the f***?" And I'm yelling at the top of my lungs.
The TV cameras catch Brian standing up with this pin vest on. You can read his lips. He's yelling, "What the blank?" And that became a very popular meme.
79.
H by P.
That's how many times the A's have been hit by a pitch, and that is the most.
Some random guy on Twitter said, "Hey, can I get this specific WTF graphic on a shirt?" So we figured out how to make a website. We figured out how to make T-shirts. And next thing you know, we were making designs after designs after designs.
And in 2019, a New York Times writer and a friend of Johansson's dubbed the Coliseum baseball's last dive bar. And hey, from WTF to LDB, a rebrand was born.
We rebranded as Last Dive Bar. We started working with players. And then when we made money, we were just like, what do we do with this? And we ended up donating everything back to the A's Community Fund, their affiliated charities.
Their website's hilarious. I mean, Last Dive Bar sells T-shirts, they sell sweatshirts and pins and shot glasses and Christmas ornaments that depict iconic Coliseum features or moments. Everyone knows that there was supposedly a possum living in the visitors broadcast booth a couple years ago. The Mets announcers made that famous.
When our tech people walked into the booth reeked so badly of possum leavings that an executive decision was made to move us to this booth.
So there's a Rally Possum t-shirt, and there are others that are like the origin of his meme, a little less family friendly.
Yeah, as in it's bathroom humor. What is it, Tim?
Well, Clinton, have you ever heard of a urinal trough?
Yeah, I'm familiar with their work. I have been to a couple different stadiums in my life, including when I was a kid. Very traumatic experience.
By the way, the urinal troughs wouldn't be a bad band name, you know? So they've become one of the symbols of this aging and dilapidated facility. And, you know, among diehard fans, like if you know, kind of, everyone's had a trough moment, right?
Correct.
When Brian did not hold back in explaining just his own experiences of many experiences at the trough.
The first time I ever saw a man's genitalia outside of my father was at the Coliseum in front of a trough. I'm like, 3 foot, 4 foot, nothing. I'm looking over and it's just a row of wieners. And I'm like, oh my, I was traumatized. Like every man from like an A's fan or a Raider fan has an experience at the trough. Like, oh man, the trough is just, it's mortifying, but then it like literally brings back so many memories of just like being in fear of going to the bathroom.
You know, at some point with selling, this gear, he kind of realized, hey, we need to get the troughs on some shirts and on some merch.
I was like, man, how funny would it be if we just took the trough and put that on a t-shirt? We ended up making pins, and that's actually our second best selling design. If it's ever a possibility that we can take anything out of that place, like I would love to put a trough in my backyard, put some flowers in it.
Okay, baseball's last dive bar, though, it's not a real place. It's a merchandise and apparel company that Brian started. And these are relatively common at this day and age in terms of various fan bases. But the relationship between these kind of companies and the actual squads that they support is a very wide spectrum. Some are partnered. Some are kind of constantly working that conflict between what's technically legal from a trademark standpoint and what's not. In the case of LDB, how did that go?
Well, for quite a while, it was great. They partnered with the team on charity fundraisers, like they had bingo night at the ballpark, I think once every homestand. They created T-shirt and gift designs for like special events. One notable one was Stephen Vogt's retirement ceremony. They had commercials for Last Dive Bar on the team streaming broadcasts.
These are all things that the A's either commissioned us to do, worked with us on, but however paid for every single one of these.
But according to Brian, this relationship began to fray when his company sought legal protection for the Last Dive Bar brand and their designs. They wanted to trademark baseball's Last Dive Bar, but Major League Baseball objected to their use of the word baseball. And in the end, to make kind of a convoluted story a little bit less so, Brian and his partners ended up becoming Last Dive Bar without the baseball. But he felt through this whole process that the A's, who he had partnered with and raised money for, didn't do enough to vouch for them with Major League Baseball. And I mean, as Brian tells it, the A's basically froze out Last Dive Bar. And Last Dive Bar, in turn, went from friend to adversary. And then within 6 months of this whole saga playing out, the A's announced their deal with Las Vegas.
Even after that, after we got burned by them, we're still like, oh man, we were like having a hard time turning heel. And then when we turned heel, it was like, that's it. Our creative juices, we just were clawing our way through everything.
This is where Brian's story starts to dovetail with that of Jorge Leon, the activist fan that we profiled in our last episode.
Right.
Since Last Dive Bar had done these collaborations with the A's, they had some strong relationships with people who worked for the team. And, I don't know who exactly Brian was speaking to within the team, but I've heard plenty of people say that some team employees are just as upset about the team leaving as the fans are. And so Brian started working his contacts and got all this inside information that kind of helped him kind of wage a PR war against the team. And, as we discussed last time, by the time we get to June of 2023, when the reverse boycott happened, Brian is fully aligned with Jorge and these fellow fan support group activists.
They basically f***ed with the completely wrong group and the wrong fan base.
The reason we wanted to share this part of Brian's story is that, it illustrates the way people perceive this franchise as operating, the way they've treated fans, and really the way that it changed on April 19th, 2023, when the A's informed the city they were moving to Las Vegas. But the roots of this go back even further. The John Fisher ownership group has really alienated fans for quite a while.
The lowest payrolls in the league, doubling season ticket prices, not paying your minor leaguers, reposting a GoFundMe for one of your coaches, minor league coaches that was dying of COVID when that was really big, literally feeding players Fire Fest sandwiches. The list goes on and on and on of what John Fisher's done.
So fans have felt sort of put upon by this ownership group for quite some time.
You promised.
I took the garbage out.
No, I'm talking about all the work we need to get done around here.
I know. We need a new roof and we need replacement windows.
How about a new bathroom and some overdue remodeling?
And how are we supposed to pay for all that?
My sister said she called Remodeling Loans and they were able to find her certified contractors.
That's great. But how'd she get the money to pay for all that?
Remodeling Loans offered 0 interest for 60 months. They even have payment plans with 0 down and 0 deposit.
Looks like we're getting a home makeover.
Great. Now, if I only knew someone to call for a husband makeover.
Really?
Remodeling Loans is the #1 leader in home improvement financing. Call 800-921-1403 today for a no credit check, no risk approval. Get approved today and we'll match you with the best contractors in your area. And remember, no deposit financing is now available. Call 800-921-1403. 800-921-1403.
The new year is upon us, and a time to focus on health goals and creating a healthier lifestyle while regrouping after the bustling holiday season. Maybe you have a desk job or you're stuck indoors for long hours during the winter months. Achy joints from the cold, stretching offers benefits like increased mobility, improved health, and overall wellness. Plus, when you're staying active, you reduce stress and set the tone for a healthier year ahead. Urbana Park District has their grand opening and open house for the Health and Wellness Center at 2002 East Washington Street between the Brookins Center and Preston Elementary School. The new Health and Wellness Center has basketball and pickleball courts, fitness and workout equipment, a walking track, plus meeting rooms. Purchase a membership to the Health and Wellness Center and take advantage of this new facility. Learn the details at urbanaparks.org. Urbana Park District, you belong here.
Thank you for choosing 2 Men and a Truck. How may I help you?
Hi, I have a strange question. I'm moving my business. Can we stay open while we're moving?
That's not strange at all. With over 10 million moves completed, we understand that moving your business can be a daunting task. We offer a range of services that help keep your business running during the relocation process. We can help you pack, move, and unpack so you can focus on what matters most, your business.
Not sure how your move is going to work? Go to 2meninatruck.com for your free estimate.
Illini fans win free tickets. Stevie J Broadcasting has teamed up with Express Employment Professionals, your local link to top talent opportunities. Text Illini to 217-359-2255 for your chance to win tickets to upcoming home games. That's Illini to 359-2255. Express Employment Professionals, respecting people, impacting business at 1001 North Mattis. Express Employment Professionals says go Illini. Visit expresspros.com.
Would you like to participate in a study from the University of Illinois? Support comes from the HIT to Sit Less study at the University of Illinois, seeking healthy participants like you between ages 40 and 75 for a study investigating sitting and vigorous exercise. Details at go.illinois.edu/sitless or call 217-333-0581. That's 217-333-0581.
Good morning, First Federal Savings Bank. How may I direct your call?
Speak with friendly, real people during lobby hours. It matters when you call First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana. A real person located at the bank. Not a recording answers your call during lobby hours. Personal, friendly service makes a difference. 217-356-BANK.
Thank you for calling. Have a great day.
Rated 5-star superior by Bauer Financial, Inc. Fast, friendly, and local with local loan decisions and underwriting. If you're not already banking with us, give us a try. We think you'll love it here. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. NMLS 435120.
In a good action movie, the impossible is overcome before the happy ending. The action that started in The Christmas Story continues today. All year long, church people work through Empty Tomb to help local neighbors face situations that can seem impossible. Clothes for a job interview, a bed for a child, food to eat when work hours are cut, 1 month's rent before the first paycheck, a tank of gas to look for work, a medical need not covered by insurance. Empty Tomb connects church people with local neighbors in need. And through the research and mission match, Empty Tomb also helps church people nationally recognize their potential to help others in Jesus' name. I encourage you to include Empty Tomb in your year-end giving. You can make your check out to Empty Tomb Inc. or give online at emptytomb.org. Your gifts in December will continue the action that began with The Christmas Story and continues throughout the new year. And Merry Christmas.
2-1.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. It's the Music City Bowl on ESPN as bowl season continues. The first half highlighted by an electrifying 100-yard kickoff return by Iowa's Caden Weegan. Hawkeyes lead Missouri 21-14 at the half. The Broncos won't likely have to face Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, and several other Chiefs starters in Week 18 Sunday. KC, having already wrapped up the 1 seed in the AFC, expected to rest the starters. That, though, does not equal a cakewalk for Denver, notes ESPN's Adam Schefter.
This isn't going to be a gimme game for the Broncos. There's a big game for all the people that are going to be called on. Now, it's as favorable as Denver could hope it to be for a matchup against a team as great as the Chiefs. But it's not a layup. It's not a gimme. They still have to go out and take care of business.
Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee Show. Denver clinches the final AFC wildcard spot available with a win or tie. A Denver loss would open the door for the Dolphins or Bengals to take that spot. Schefter's reporting Mike Vrabel's work as a consultant with the Browns ended today, so he's eligible to interview for NFL head coaching jobs immediately.
Hey, it's Courtney Cronin. Coming up on Tuesday on Unsportsmanlike, the NFC North is the best division in the NFL. But how sure are we that that's where the Super Bowl champion will come from? We'll answer that on Unsportsmanlike Tuesday, 6 a.m. Eastern, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
The pandemic was an ideal time for them to make the moves that they wanted to make. They took advantage of that situation.
That's Jenny LaMarche. She's a 24-year season ticket holder with the A's. She's known as Left Field Jenny. She told me that she noticed a real marked shift in the team's approach to how it treated its fans after the pandemic.
In 2019, everything was rainbows and butterflies and great. And then we come back in 22 with season tickets and doubled, if not more, the season ticket prices, which, you know, in the bleachers, we're in the bleachers mostly for a reason because we can't afford seats behind home plate on a full season ticket. But even doubling that for people's budgets is just unacceptable. And then they took away the discounted parking and the discounts on the food and beverages. And so that says a lot about how they felt about the fan base.
Let it not be forgotten. This was not a bad baseball team during these particular runs. 2018, wild card. Okay, they lost in the first round. 2019, wild card. Okay, they lost in the first round. But the actual pandemic year 2020 made the wild card, won a series, and then ended up losing to Houston, a very good team, as we know. It wasn't like this was just happening in a vacuum. There were good, solid baseball teams at the time, Tim.
They were. I mean, they made the playoffs, I believe it was 10 times in the 2000s. And they always did it on the cheap, but they did it.
I just can't imagine how heartbreaking that is, though, coming out of a 2020 season where the world is stopped. Finally, the baseball finally gets you a playoff win, and then you decide to turn things around from a fan experience standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. All the stars were gone by then. Catcher Sean Murphy, first baseman Matt Olson, Matt Chapman at third base. The roster was gutted. And so when you looked at what the team was and wasn't doing and how it was treating its most loyal fans, I mean, there's a wide belief within the fan base that after the pandemic, the A's knew at that point when they were on parallel paths between Oakland and Las Vegas that they weren't going to stay in Oakland.
Tim, we heard a little bit from left field Jenny before the break. That's a great nickname, by the way, just in general. Please do tell us more about her and where that moniker came from.
Well, she's good friends with right field Will, so that should tell you something about where Will sits. But yeah, the short version of the left field Jenny nickname is that obviously her season tickets for 24 years have been in the left field bleachers.
All of us that have been there for several years kind of just started adapting names.
It's very noticeable. She's got big red curly hair. She's always waving an A's flag.
I would get like, oh, where's the girl with the flag with the red curly hair? And then so it just kind of like morphed into a left field Jenny kind of thing.
I would say the main reason I wanted to talk to left field Jenny is because she's taken a different approach this season. Many fans, as you can tell by the attendance figures, have boycotted the A's. You can get your last dive bar summer of boycott pin if you want. But they have thought, that the thinking is you don't want to put any more money into this team's pockets. They don't deserve it. But, left field Jenny is different. She, before the season, decided she was going to go to every single home game.
This would be the year that I attempt to attend all the games because I wanted and felt I needed for myself to experience as much of the Oakland A's as a team, as players, as the sport itself in the Oakland Coliseum. It feels like a second home to me. And it's been like that since day one.
Jenny Clinton, she was very deliberate about this. She approached her employer and got permission to be away from the office every time the A's were playing a game. She kind of keeps her eye on emails. Usually she'll check it right before first pitch and maybe once in the middle of the game and then maybe once as soon as the game ends. She talked about there've been a lot of unique experiences the last couple years, and one of them was this year's opening day.
It was a little surreal because it was opening night and there was maybe like 4,000 or 5,000 people. At least that's what was reported. But I was still happy to be there because that's, like I said, in my heart, that's where I feel like I belong. And as it's gone on, still every day I'm happy to be there, but every day now is more, it's almost over. So it's more emotional every day.
I imagine that somebody like that might get made fun of quite a bit for being so serious about, for lack of a better term, such a bum squad, never mind franchise. But she's got a pretty unique view on the joy that she expresses just being in the park. What are some of her favorite experiences there?
One player in particular is cited by Jenny often as someone who's given her a lot of a joy over the years, and that's Mike Trout. And, Mike Trout came up as a left fielder. We know him as a center fielder, but when he first came up, he was a left fielder for the Angels. So he was right below Jenny whenever the Angels came to the Coliseum. And she and her bleacher friends, they're always trying to come up with some funny thing to do or some little gimmick. And they decided to have some fun with his name.
Who doesn't want to try to take advantage of the name Trout and, give him some grief about it?
So what they did was they made these sort of, homemade fishing poles, sort of like Huck Finn fishing poles with a stick and a string.
We all showed up with sticks that we turned into like mini fishing rods, and we put Swedish fish on the end of them and just were yelling, "Hey, fishy, fishy, fishy" at him. And he just, laughed, shook his head, probably said, "You guys are crazy." And he was the best sport.
Occasionally he'd even go over there and pull one of the pieces of candy off the string and eat it and give him a big thumbs up. And, that's the kind of interaction. I mean, that's the kind of thing she didn't want to miss this last year.
I'm hearing all this from Jenny and also just reflecting on what we've heard from everyone else you've spoken to. Even Jorge in the previous episode, when he compared the Coliseum to public plazas in Mexico, like there's a real palpable sense of community that comes through here.
You're exactly right, Clinton. And one of the stories that Jenny tells is having been around this one family where they had a young son.
I mean, I've seen so many kids born and grown up in this stadium. One of the kids used to sleep under our seats in his diapers during the games. And he just graduated from Cal and was playing football. That's something they can never take away from me. So I still have those connections to the stadium. And that's because that's where the last 24 years of my life have been. And I've met the majority of the friends that I have today through the Coliseum, through the A's being there.
Yeah, I think the short version of that, and something that's lost on, frankly, quite a few fan bases as things like Rings Mountain and Legacy Twitter become more and more a part of why people talk about sports at all, is just the fun part is the people you're there with. This isn't that hard when the people are actually cool.
Exactly. And I enjoy going out to the bleachers at the Coliseum. It's fun. I'm not sitting in the press box. I'm going to go out and sit with those guys.
Tim, there's the people that work for the team. There's the people that are on the team. There's the people that go and support the team. But there's also the people that make the team go in the context of on the ground. And I'm referring to people who work in and around the stadium. How is this impacting them?
Well, Clinton, I'd like to introduce you to Kendrick Thompson, who's known as Ice Cold Kenny Bo.
I'm Ice Cold Kenny Bo. I started working at the Coliseum. I've been there for 13 wonderful years.
If there's such a thing as a celebrity vendor, this is our guy. Everybody knows him. He's got a great beer call.
Ice cold, ice cold. Who's thirsty, folks? Cold beers.
Very good.
And the first time I've been able to do that, not at work.
He's a very happy guy. He's always smiling. And, he started going to A's games as a fan when he was like 4 or 5. His stepdad was a longtime vendor at the Coliseum and a charismatic one, just like his son.
First game he took me to, and he told me I had to hold my money. He said, "You're going to hear a lot of stuff out there, and just, enjoy it, have a good time, and just make it fun for you."
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Any mayo-based salad is disgusting. There's only one chicken salad on earth that I will eat. Most of them are too mayo-based. Egg salad is the grossest thing you could ever show me. That is so gross. If you're like, you know what I'm craving? An egg salad sandwich? Sickening.
Tuna and egg gross.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday mornings starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
Every 40 seconds, a child is reported missing. That's 2,000 children every single day. It's a heart-wrenching reality that we can no longer ignore. Find the Children is a non-profit organization dedicated to helping find missing kids. You can be a part of their mission by donating your unwanted vehicle, running or not. Call 1-800-294-0222. We guarantee that you will receive the maximum tax deduction. We provide fast, free pickup with 24-hour response. Call 1-800-294-0222. Find the Children provides crucial resources to help find missing children and educational materials to teach kids how to recognize and avoid predators. Our recovery programs have a proven track record of reuniting kids with their families. It's time to act. Donate your unwanted or unused car. Help us build a world where every child is safe. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-294-0222. Together, we can bring these kids home safely. This advertisement was paid for in partnership with Cars R Us and Find the Children.
Are you tired of shivering in the winter? Look no further than your local heroes at ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Hi, this is Gina inviting you to give us a call at 217-352-5400 to book your appointment to make sure your furnaces run safely and efficiently this winter. We've been proudly locally owned and operated and have been serving our community for over 50 years. ABC, always be comfortable. Call me 217-352-5400 to book your appointment today or go to abcheatingandac.com.
Jets Pizza is offering a special deal when you spend $25. Just use promo code 5ADD. That's the number 5ADD and specify Jets bread or cinnamon sticks for only $5. Combine that with their current $5 off pizza promos and you can cheer on the Illini while enjoying hot pizza with your favorite Jets bread or cinnamon sticks. What a deal. You spend $25, enter 5ADD for Jets bread or cinnamon sticks for just $5. Jets, better because it has to be.
In a good action movie, the impossible is overcome before the happy ending. The action that started in The Christmas Story continues today. All year long, church people work through Empty Tomb to help local neighbors face situations that can seem impossible. Clothes for a job interview, a bed for a child, food to eat when work hours are cut, 1 month's rent before the first paycheck, a tank of gas to look for work, a medical need not covered by insurance. Empty Tomb connects church people with local neighbors in need. And through the research and mission match, Empty Tomb also helps church people nationally recognize their potential to help others in Jesus' name. I encourage you to include Empty Tomb in your year-end giving. You can make your check out to Empty Tomb Inc. or give online at emptytomb.org. Your gifts in December will continue the action that began with The Christmas Story and continues throughout the new year. And Merry Christmas.
Looking for help with your power bills? If you live in Champaign County, the Regional Planning Commission's LIHEAP Energy Assistance Program can help. The program starts October 1st with appointments available in Champaign, Urbana, and Rantoul, as well as special mobile events. Learn more about LIHEAP, eligibility, income guidelines, and how to make your appointment by visiting ccrpc.org/LIHEAP. Avoid a shutoff this winter and get the help you need with Regional Planning Commission's LIHEAP Energy Assistance Program. Urbana Park District with a new website, urbanaparks.org, with a fantastic new look, including an ADA accessibility program so more people can navigate the website. There's translation services. Just press a button and read the website in a foreign language. Want to register for an Urbana Park District class or program online? It's easier to use. Urbana Park District, you belong here. Check out the new website, urbanaparks.org.
Find the look you love for less at Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola. Explore their wide selection of quality pieces, from cozy sofas to exquisite dining sets from all the top name brands. With personalized service and expert advice, their team makes finding the perfect piece effortless. Create the home of your dreams with Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola. Exceptional customer service and the best prices since 1959. Stop by today or visit them online at kelseyfurniture.com.
Mom, she won't stop touching me. Broccoli stinks.
Guys, no phones at the table.
Family dinner time? Not easy. But you know what is easy? OSF On-Call Urgent Care. When you need convenient, affordable care for minor illnesses and injuries, you need OSF On-Call Urgent Care. Be seen in person or connect 24/7 online when and where you need it. Learn more at osfoncall.org/urgentcare.
Solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6759. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6759. That's 800-575-6759. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
for me, it just became the love of it. Like, I never cared for the tips. I've never cared for the money. I've always told people I would do this hourly if I could, because for free or voluntary, just because I love it. For me, it's not something you just go out there, work a couple hours, make some good money and go home. And I actually enjoy speaking with fans. I enjoy learning from fans. You know, I might see a fan I know every single game, and, you know, they want the same exact beer. Having a conversation started like that, making friends outside of work, it's just more than a job to a lot of us, especially me.
If it sounds heartfelt, it's because it is. And if you watched him work, you would see that attitude in practice. This guy, he's going to miss this for reasons that go well beyond a paycheck. And, you know, I asked him about the situation with the A's, obviously, with this place closing down essentially after this season. And, you know, I asked him, what about this building? What are people missing about what that Coliseum means to someone like you?
They're missing the heart of it, because it's like, we love the stadium. We don't care if it's falling apart. We know we don't care about none of that. It's our home. This is all we have. And, you know, in the city of Oakland, it's a saying, you know, Oakland can't have nothing. And this is what we have. This is the only thing that, sorry, I'm getting a little teary-eyed. This is the only thing that a lot of us have, to go to express ourselves, to go to feel free to cheer our team on, to seeing Raiders try to make the playoffs, or seeing the A's in the playoffs with 50,000 fans there. Like that's the heart. You know, those outside folks, they don't see what we see. They don't have the same support that we built here.
You know, on the night of July 22nd, most of these Coliseum workers, whether they be vendors or stadium ops employees or even the incredibly good groundskeeping crew, they were told by the A's in an email that they will be out of a job at season's end. And this comes after a already big decrease in the workforce over the past couple years to account for the lack of attendance.
A lot of things are going to be lost. It's 3 sports teams. You can't change that. The kids, where are they going to have to go to? What's going to happen afterwards? In my opinion, I really don't think it's good, because where are these people going to work? Where are the concession workers that's been there for 40, 50 years going to go?
That's heartbreaking. That said, Tim, as we get closer to the final game at the Coliseum, something that I don't want to say looking forward to attending, but will be honored to be in the place for, considering how historic it's going to be. What kind of headspace is everyone in the Bay in right now?
Well, you know, it's the fans I talk to say they kind of have these milestones, you know, like these pins on a timeline, and one of them was September. Like they said, September hits, this is going to be real. We're going to have less than a month of A's baseball left. And, you know, I tried to get a sense of where people are. And, you know, obviously everyone's at a different place with the pervading sense that everyone is sad, right? I mean, that's mainly they're sad or they're angry. You know, when the team announced that it was moving temporarily to West Sacramento, or Sacramento, it's actually in West Sacramento, but they, you know, I was there at their press conference, and I talked to Dave Kaval afterward, and he said to me, the rest of this season is going to be dedicated to celebrating the team's 56 years in Oakland. And so, you know, I wanted to ask these people, I wanted to ask people like Brian and Jenny, like, what are they seeing? This celebration that he talked about, what are they seeing as they get close to the end? Has it felt like a celebration to you?
No, not at all.
There's been absolutely zero celebration. It's like they haven't touched it with a 10-foot pole. They won't touch it. They won't at all try to figure out some sort of way to leave with a little bit of grace or dignity.
So what you see in the ballpark, Clinton, right now, the only way you really know that this is the end of something is by, you know, video montages of history on the screens before games, that don't ever address directly the end of baseball in Oakland. They'll bring some alumni in on Sundays and they'll sign autographs for an hour and then they'll throw out the first pitch. But, beyond that, you really wouldn't be able to tell that this is this epic event.
I don't see that as celebrating Oakland, like Oakland itself, the time here in Oakland. They're not living up to that end of the deal at all.
If you had, say, 30 seconds alone with John Fisher, what would you tell him?
Nothing I could say here. Like, this has been our lives and you're pulling it out from under us. So we just want an explanation why you couldn't make it work, why you couldn't stick with that plan when everything was kind of finally coming together.
If I had 30 seconds alone with John Fisher, what would I tell him? I would tell him just to stay in Oakland. Don't leave. Think about what you're doing to us. Think about what you're taking away from these kids. Think about all the workers that have been faithful and loyal. Build and keep building. We just had 50,000 people. 50,000 in the playoff game, the most ever. So why not keep that same team? Why tear them apart the next year on purpose?
There's nothing I could say to that man that could ever change his mind or his feelings about what he's done. He said it himself. It's been harder for him than it is for anybody else. You can't change a person's mind that thinks like that.
There's definitely passion there. Different people express it either less or more colorfully. But I do think that the sentiment is like, we've done everything to try to show our loyalty. Where's yours? So those sentiments that these fans will leave with is just ushering in what is about to be probably the messiest relocation of our lifetimes. The A's are going to play 3 years in a minor league stadium in Sacramento starting next season. They've got this deal to build a ballpark on 9 acres in Las Vegas. That is still up in the air. That deal is not complete. They don't have their financing out. They don't have complete renderings of the stadium. To throw the Vegas metaphor out there, this is a real gamble, what John Fisher and the A's are doing. And I think the question that we have to ask is, when you look at the financial side of this, and when you look at all the challenges inherent in relocating not once, but twice in 3 or 4 years, does this make sense?
I think this is an absolute own goal for John Fisher, right? He has really managed to seize defeat from the jaws of victory here. I will be very surprised if John Fisher comes out happy from whatever this deal works out to be, whether it's in Las Vegas or Sacramento or someplace else.
That is where we will leave it until next time, Tim. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Clinton.
As we were wrapping production on this episode, we received a response from the Athletics. When asked what the team owes Oakland and its fans, they said in part, quote, "We are deeply grateful to Oakland for being home to the A's for nearly 60 years, end quote. They went on to say, "We appreciate the community members, local leaders and staff who have worked diligently to build a new home in Oakland, and applaud the fans who passionately advocated for the team to stay. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to the loyal fans for their unwavering support throughout the years." The full statement is available in today's episode description. Death of a Sports Town Part 4, which examines whether this move will actually benefit the A's, will publish in this feed next Tuesday, followed a week later by our on-the-ground report. We're hitting the road, folks, from Oakland's final Major League Baseball game. And if you need to find parts 1 and 2, we've posted links in today's episode description. I'm Clinton Yates. This has been ESPN Daily. We'll talk to you tomorrow, kiddos.
You have
cancer. There's nothing you can do to prepare yourself.
Round 1 of chemotherapy. I'm gonna fight it. I'm gonna survive. There's no way I'm gonna let this take over me.
Cancer doesn't care what you look like, who you are.
It may not save my life. It may save my children's lives. It may save someone you love.
You ain't get this cancer about you. Let's do it.
Live. Fight like hell. And when you get too tired to fight, let somebody else fight for you. That's what they say of me,
Because of all the donations, mine is one of the lives that's been saved. 1, 2, 3. Never give up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Visit v.org/donate.
If you have ever thought about remodeling your bathroom but were worried it would take too long or cost too much, then stop worrying. Right now, Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has designed a collection of high-quality custom products and perfected the one-day remodeling experience so you can enjoy your new bathroom faster than ever before. It's a worry-free bath remodel from the most trusted brand name in the business, Jacuzzi. A jacuzzi bath system fits in your existing tub space. It's a no-mess installation with an amazing style selection, factory-certified installers, and a limited lifetime warranty. Call 800-717-4599. That's 800-717-4599 right now and get 50% off installation with no interest and no payments for 12 months. Replace that old bathtub today with a walk-in shower for a safer bathing experience. If you have lived in your home for over 15 years, it's time to remodel your bathroom. For a virtual or in-home appointment, call 800-717-4599. That's 800-717-4599. 800-717-4599.
So you're trying to get maybe with some pastors.
You know, it starts with law enforcement in developing actionable partnerships. And one of the things I did in Norfolk, you know, one of my most violent sectors had 64 churches. Mm-hmm. These pastors had an opportunity to provide guidance or prayer once the scene was safe. But more importantly, they knew the individual or knew a family member that attended their congregation. Mm-hmm. The beauty of that is talk to the congregation about what was going on outside the walls of the church in their community. They more often than not knew a relative of the suspect or the victim, and that modified behavior because not only was conversation happening within the squad car and in the church, now conversations were happening at the kitchen table. Crime went down drastically.
Big thanks from Stephanie Pratt, the realtor that rocks, Coldwell Banker Realtors. Thank you so much for coming out. Chief Larry Boone with the Urbana Police Department.
Thank you for choosing 2 Men and a Truck. How may I help you?
Hi, I have a strange question. I'm moving my business. Can we stay open while we're moving?
That's not strange at all. With over 10 million moves completed, we understand that moving your business can be a daunting task. We offer a range of services that help keep your business running during the relocation process. We can help you pack, move, and unpack so you can focus on what matters most, your business.
Not sure how your move is going to work? Go to 2menandatruck.com for your free estimate.
Here's what new customers are saying about Interstate Batteries.
It's nice to see capable and helpful associates. They did a top-notch job.
They were easy to talk to and explained everything.
Service was prompt and I was a walk-in. Total service time was only like 20 minutes. I highly recommend Interstate Batteries.
Interstate Batteries. Outrageously dependable. How much is dependable worth? Experience them for the first time at 2504 North Mattis. Way out there, but worth the drive. Interstate Batteries. Outrageously dependable.
Visit interstatebatteries.com.
Take charge of the years ahead with a smart, sound investment strategy and business succession plan. Busey Bank's business and wealth management experts help you envision your best future with powerful insights and proven strategies. Building business and growing wealth since 1868, Busey Bank, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
Sarah Champagne Managing Partner Ben Quattrone on why integrity is important at Sarah.
We hire the person. The person makes the deal. The person makes the department. The person makes everyone around them treat people with courtesy and respect. If you have a quality human being, you can play any position, right? We're talking about sports. They can perform in any department, and I could teach someone a job, but I can't teach them to be a good person.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com. That's SERRA champagne.com.
On the first Christmas, baby Jesus was born in a stable because God loves each of us. This Christmas, how can we show God we love him too? Jesus said we can show our love for God by loving our neighbor. Let's make God happy this Christmas.
This is Jim Manley. Throughout this year that's been tough for so many, Empty Tomb Inc. has worked with church people to show their love for God through practical works done in Jesus' name. Clothes, food, furniture, and financial help are shared at our local neighbors' points of need. In addition, Research and Mission Match encourage churches to help our neighbors globally too. Your gift to Empty Tomb now will help people in our local area at their points of need all through the new year. Please send your check to Empty Tomb in Champaign, Illinois, or go to emptytomb.org to donate. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, baby Jesus.
And Merry Christmas to you too.
They've lost so many games.
ESPN's Adam Schefter's reporting Mike Vrabel's work as a consultant with the Browns ended today, so he's eligible to interview for NFL head coaching jobs immediately. Bears, Saints, and Jets currently with openings. NFL Week 17 finishes off tonight with the Lions at the 49ers on Monday Night Football, 8 Eastern, ABC, ESPN, and ESPN+.
Hey, it's Courtney Cronin. Coming up on Tuesday on Unsportsmanlike, the college football playoff quarterfinals are finally here. We'll tell you which teams we think have the best chance to advance. It's Unsportsmanlike, Tuesday at 6 a.m. Eastern, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Tim, you noted what we are setting out to do here as an assignment is unpack the death of a sports town of Oakland, California. And I think that for a lot of people, Oakland over the years has become sort of a signal of what can go wrong. But at the most base level, how did Oakland come to be a sports town to begin with?
Well, as a professional sports town, Clinton, let's start with a building. Let's start with the Oakland Coliseum. This entire saga could be told through the point of view of this massive concrete on the side of Interstate 880 in East Oakland. It's kind of like if walls could talk, right? What would those walls in that ballpark tell us? And the irony is that the current terrible state of that ballpark is often used by owners and leagues as a big reason why two of those teams either have left or are leaving. But that building, weirdly, is the main reason that those teams came to Oakland in the first place. It was built to lure sports franchises, and it definitely worked. I mean, the Raiders were first in 1960. They were a founding member of the AFL. And, you know, the idea of the AFL was kind of like, airlines that fly into regional airports, right? You don't fly into San Francisco, you fly into Oakland. So that the AFL knew that they couldn't compete head to head in cities that had NFL teams. So they went to sort of satellite cities. Oakland was that team to counter the 49ers. But at that time, you know, the Bay Area was booming. This city was untapped potential, so it made sense. You know, the A's were next. It's kind of amazing that they stayed in Oakland as long as they have, because for the better part of that franchise's history, they have either threatened to relocate or claimed they were going to relocate or talked about going somewhere else just from the start almost. And
I think, quick sidebar, people don't realize that franchise is the most moved in the history of the major leagues.
Yes, and and the crazy thing is it's all been for different reasons, and it's all been done by different people. But they came to Oakland, the A's did, in 1968, 10 years after the Dodgers and the Giants broke the West Coast barrier by moving to Los Angeles and San Francisco. And, you know, they came to Oakland the same reason that the Raiders did. And this booming city with this big old stadium that had no baseball team in it.
everybody knows that look of the Raiders playing football on a baseball diamond, but there's also the Warriors, who clearly did not play in the Coliseum, but they have their own specific history.
They do, Clinton, and it is just intrinsically tied to those other teams, because the Oakland Coliseum Arena, as it was known, opened in 1966 on the same grounds as the Oakland Coliseum ballpark. But, you know, it was this new modern facility that just completely outshined the Cow Palace, which is where the Warriors were playing in San Francisco. And in 1971, the Warriors moved to the Coliseum Arena, now known as Oracle Arena, and they became the Golden State Warriors. So it's worth noting that we're talking about a broad scope here. We're talking about 1960 to 2024. So it's 64 years of sports history in this town. And for about 35 of them, all three teams were playing in the same complex, sharing a parking lot. And for 52 of those years, there were at least two teams in the same complex, the Coliseum complex, which, if you're a media member, you walk in through the same gate to get to both places. There were times when you could go to an A's game in the afternoon and a Warriors game at night and never go outside the complex. It was like the most modern complex, perhaps, in sports. And I think, as you'll see, this story is as much the story of those two buildings, that Coliseum complex, as it is the story of any of those teams.
We got NFL stadiums being named after credit unions these days, and a place called the Cow Palace once existed. We used to be a proper country, Tim. Anyway, so
it did. And Wilt Chamberlain roamed that Cow Palace, Clinton.
Come on, where it happened. Anyway, Oakland has a place, if you haven't spent any time there or don't know anybody from there, in itself as just a municipality, is worth investigating in terms of what we know about it. What did teams find so appealing about the location as well as the facilities?
Are you ready for another ironic point here, Clinton?
I am.
There was a time when multi-purpose stadiums were actually state-of-the-art. That's what people wanted. Team owners, this whole process was so simple for them. You'd have a city build you a big concrete circle, put a football team and a baseball team inside it, and just go about counting your money. You know, we had Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, the Vet in Philadelphia, Fulton County in Atlanta. And compared with those, the Coliseum was a marvel for a number of reasons. One, it was a great location, and it still is a great location. It's right off the highway. It's got a BART station on site. It's right near the airport. It's an economically vibrant region, and as an added plus, for a long time, there were iconic ice plant growing behind the outfield bleachers and unobstructed views of the beautiful Oakland Hills. And, you know, beyond that, the city and the county, which owned that property together, half each, they provided all kinds of support for these teams. So the owners had a government on their side, and they had this fan market that, you know, I like to say that Oakland is like a Smoky Jazz Club and San Francisco is like the Symphony Hall. And the people in Oakland, they didn't want to go to the Symphony. They wanted to hang out with, you know, with people that rooted for the A's and the Warriors and the Raiders and tailgated in the endless parking lot of the Coliseum. And, you know, they embraced this. And the other practical part of this is that if you have a ballpark that holds two different teams, you know, you save money. You don't have to build a football stadium separately. You have this built-in sort of cost savings with two teams sharing this complex.
Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati also on that list of places that, well, that was what sports looked like in the 70s and 80s to a lot of people. But all of that infrastructural stuff is great. But if there's no rings, if there's no trophies, it doesn't really matter. Can you walk us through some of the higher points, achievement-wise, of Oakland pro sports history, sir?
Clinton, I give you 1974. Let's start there. The A's win the third of their 3 straight World Series championships.
Rollie Fingers wraps it up, and the Oakland Coliseum explodes into ecstasy as the Oakland A's capture their 3rd successive World Championship.
The Raiders go 12-2 They have this incredible win against the Dolphins in a divisional playoff with Clarence Davis and the Sea of Hands touchdown.
Side, he throws. It is. Oh, he caught it. He caught it. Unbelievable.
They lose to the hated Steelers in the AFC Championship game, but that just fuels them for down the line. And the Warriors in 74-75, they win their first title in the Bay Area. They've got Rick Barry. They've got Al Attles, who was the first African-American coach after Bill Russell, who was a player coach, to win a title. So, Oakland in 1974, it was the absolute center of the sports universe. Clinton, I want to just add something here that Oakland has this reputation, well-deserved reputation as this city of rebellion. They didn't take any garbage in Oakland. They were people that knew what they wanted. It's a very diverse community of diverse interests and diverse people that really all seem to get along, and sports brought them together. And there were several sort of eras where the A's were kind of a glue there. Obviously that 72, 73, 74 string of World Series championships with your man Vida Blue. Raleigh Fingers and Catfish Hunter, and to top it all off, like Reggie Jackson. They had this swagger, and they sometimes fought in the dugout, and they really set the tone for A's baseball. They had the white cleats, and the white pants, and they did it with style, and they were really embraced by the city. Then we fast forward a little bit to the Bash Brothers in the late 80s, early 90s.
There's a drive in the right center field. That is really hit. It's well back, and there is home run number 100 for Mark McGwire.
Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, Dave Stewart. There were incredible stars on that team. And then you had Oakland's own Rickey Henderson.
Rickey goes, a pitch taken. He's going to have it. He does. Rickey Henderson, no contest, steals third base, jerks the bag from its moorings, and holds it aloft, representing number 939.
I think he's a top 10 all-time baseball player. And Rickey was homegrown, and Rickey loved Oakland, and those teams went to the World Series 3 straight years and were favored each time, but only won one of them in 1989.
And that one is carrying, and back goes Mitchell, and it's a launching pad again tonight. It's a ground ball to the right side, steered by Phillips, flips to Eckersley. Yes, he's there in time, and the A's are the world champions.
You also had sort of the Moneyball era, the early 2000s, where, Billy Beane was putting together these teams out of, beaks and claws that would end up, winning 95 to 100 games and always losing in the playoffs. As Billy's famous line, "My doesn't work in the playoffs," came up about the third or fourth time that team failed. But there were good years, there were bad years, but these fans were loyal. They were loyal to all those teams. And, for the purposes of our discussion right now, they were loyal to the A's. When that team won, people showed up.
The Dubs era obviously was sort of the last dominance that we saw in the Bay Area of pro sports teams. It's hard to describe what that was like, not just for people from Oakland, but for everybody in the Bay. They were, I still say, that is the best basketball team I ever saw with my eyeballs.
Yeah, I think the word that makes it is team.
Curry with the hook pass to Thompson. They work it around for three.
That first iteration of the Splash Brothers, they were so rhythmic and graceful and shared the ball. The Warriors had come out of some really bad years, That was sort of an organically grown team, right? And they go on to win 3 titles in Oakland.
There's a new dynasty in the NBA. The Golden State Warriors champions once again, back-to-back titles, 3 in 4 years, and the latest with a sweep.
They just had that city in the palm of its hand. Oakland, I think above all, if you wanted to categorize it as a sports town, you'd first and foremost say it's a basketball town, and it's a very smart basketball town. That arena was filled with people that didn't look like the arena across the bay does now. You know, people could afford tickets, and people that just were that loved basketball more than they loved, you know, taking selfies of themselves next to the concession stands. I mean, these people, they always cheered at the right time. They always booed at the right time. You know, it was a party every night.
Curry again.
They were just waiting for a team like that. It's hard to overstate how much of a cultural phenomenon that team was in Oakland. The number of jerseys people wore and T-shirts and hats. I mean, it dwarfed anything that I can even remember in the Bay Area, and I've lived here practically my whole life.
Tim, you've been there all of your life for the most part. When you look back at the timeline that brings us to present day, when did you first start to think there might be concerns about this place in terms of teams that want to stay here and whether or not they'll be able to?
Well, Clinton, I think it's always been sort of a problem of perception. And I think the first person that sort of threw that perception out there and had it gain traction was Al Davis.
If there's anything we've ever done that I'm particularly proud of, I would have to say that the perpetuation of the greatness of the Raiders, to take a professional football team and give it a distinct characteristic that's different from all others.
Al Davis was sort of a throwback, right? I mean, he's an owner that his business was not oil or hardware or pharmaceuticals. His business was football. He owned a football team, and that's all he did after he coached. And he had this, you know, everyone knows the just win, baby mantra.
Just win, baby.
Well, it permeated his entire being. Winning football games was all that mattered to him, except for the part about making money in order to be in a position to win more football games. He never lost sight of that. And as kind of a side point, I would contend that no owner and no team ever embodied the ethos of its community the way Al Davis and the Raiders did in Oakland. I just feel like he was the ultimate football rebel in this ultimate crucible of rebellion. And he was revered for that. Around the country, he might have been hated. In Oakland, he was just loved. But he grew restless in Oakland. He felt like there was more out there somewhere else. He wanted, you know, in the late 70s, he started talking about upgrading the Coliseum and about needing this more money through suites, which was a relatively new concept. I think the first time that luxury boxes were introduced was at the Houston Astrodome, you know, in the mid 60s. So we're just 15 or 20 years into the life of this Coliseum, and he's already sort of calling it outdated. You know, he wanted amenities. He wanted more control. So, you know, the city and the county, you know, not to get too far into the weeds, but they had another tenant. You know, we've talked about this being a multi-purpose facility. Right. Well, they had the A's for 81 dates a year and the Raiders for roughly 10. So obviously the tie was going to go to the A's. They were going to make concessions for them and not ruin a baseball stadium for Al Davis. So, you know, to get to the point, they eventually couldn't agree, you know, and so Al Davis just packed up and left.
Well, I needed a bigger venue. I knew and I foresaw that the suites were going to be a big thing, and club seats. And they promised me in L.A. at the Coliseum that they would build those for me.
It's hard to see that as a huge upgrade from the Oakland Coliseum, but the fans got their first taste of this torture, right? This long, drawn-out process that ended up with them losing a team, because Davis initially tried to move in 1980, and then he spent 2 years fighting the NFL, and then he finally got the okay to leave.
To be real honest, the league tried to tell me you're not going.
And the minute they said, you're not going, I said, I am going. And we got into a tug of war, and I wasn't sure who was going to give first. But the courts ruled that I could move.
I think it's worth noting that the reason Al Davis had any leverage at all, considering the math of those home dates, is because the Raiders were super popular. He's the guy that hired John Madden. It wasn't like Al Davis was some crazy guy. He legitimately was a visionary. So I can understand how that push and pull would have been pretty taxing on the community overall.
Yeah, definitely. And, those, again, I want to underscore something else here, is that the long-term impact of Al Davis's decision to move the Raiders to L.A. I mean, the way he went about it, and the way he painted local government as not only uncooperative, but unwilling to give the owners what they wanted. He was the first person to do that, and he proved to be not the last one to do that. It was precedent setting, and he managed to create a perception that other owners were more than happy to promote. And because Davis actually left and Oakland lost the Raiders, initially for just 13 years, it really kind of created and cemented this unfair idea that Oakland is a bad place for big-time sports.
Sliding doors moments, splits in the multiverse moments, whatever you want to call them, they abound here. There's so many stops along the way where a decision maker or a group of decision makers were considering one option, but ended up going with a different option. And in retrospect, almost every time, that decision made it harder and harder for the teams and the city to maintain their partnership. Can you explain how that played out?
Yeah, I can. I think, it's sort of easy to see it in retrospect, right? We look back and see, okay, well, this begat that. And I think that, the fact that, Al Davis couldn't get everything he wanted in Los Angeles either, right? So in 1995, he's back in negotiations with Oakland. There was a council member, famous Oakland City Council member named Ignacio de la Fuente, who went to bat for Al Davis and essentially helped push through this plan that would bring the team back, and included building what is now known as Mount Davis, which is a monstrous third deck in the outfield of the baseball stadium that ran parallel to the football stadium. So these were good football seats and impossible baseball seats. And it changed the whole dynamic of the Coliseum.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield, and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-687-5192. That's 800-687-5192. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-687-5192.
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is having their biggest sale of the year, December 26th through January 1st. Get up to 80% off clearance items at Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. And enter to win one of 2 free GE Profile 2-in-1 washer-dryer combos valued at $2,900 each. Don't miss their biggest sale of the year. Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is located at 1510 North Neal in Champaign. Dick Van Dyke Appliance World's biggest sale of the year, December 26th through January 1st. Don't miss it.
Are you looking for a career, not just a job? Paul's is looking for experienced fabricators and millwrights to join their team on both the first and second shifts. Paul's offers above average pay, 2 weeks paid vacation, get a company bonus, health, vision, and dental, their 401k with a match, plus tuition reimbursement. Experience what being part of Paul's family feels like when being inspired by the positive culture. Let Paul's create big possibilities for your career and life. Equal opportunity employer. Apply online. paulsmachine.com.
Habitat for Humanity of Champaign County has been enjoying the 12 days of Christmas with exclusive sales, fun-filled activities, and festive surprises for the whole family. Each day will bring a new way to celebrate the season. Champaign County Restore at 1914 Glen Park Drive in Champaign will have gift wrapping on Thursday, December 19th through Saturday, December 21st. Bring your gifts to get wrapped with labels ready to put on them in exchange for a donation. If you'd like to volunteer to wrap, send a note to outreach@cuhabitat.org.
Are you tired of shivering in the winter? Look no further than your local heroes at ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Hi, this is Gina inviting you to give us a call at 217-352-5400 to book your appointment to make sure your furnaces run safely and efficiently this winter. We've been proudly locally owned and operated and have been serving our community for over 50 years. ABC, always be comfortable. Call me 217-352-5400 to book your appointment today or go to abcheatingandac.com.
Hey Illini fans, Steve from Good Vibes here with Citrus Bowl-bound linebacker and special teams player Kenenna Odeluga.
You know, I can't wait to party on New Year's Eve, and my idea of a party involves tacos.
Unfortunately, most of us can't join you in Orlando, but we'll be watching and eating Cheez-Its and drinking orange juice.
Yeah, you probably have one of those 98-inch Sonys at home.
Well, no, KO, but I do have 3 Sony OLEDs because the picture and sound are so good, I can pick out number 39 every time you take the field.
So not even an 85-inch? Football is best enjoyed extra large.
Well, my 77-inch is just right for my room, but there are deals on all the extra large screens. This is nothing you want to fumble on or pass up.
And Good Vibes delivers free? That's like the extra point.
Get the Good Vibes for that extra large Sony on sale in time to see KO knock down a few Gamecocks.
ILO.
INI.
Springfield Avenue is now open. Yes, Springfield Avenue is now open. So from Kenwood to Duncan, you can visit El Toro easily, and it's open. Your favorite Mexican restaurant is open once again. After 4 months of construction, come and see the good people at El Toro on West Springfield. They've got your favorite Mexican dish, and they're open 7 days a week. Springfield Avenue is open. Enjoy El Toro Restaurant right on Springfield near Kaufman Lake, and enjoy your favorite Mexican restaurant. El Toro on West Springfield in Champaign.
Urbana Park District with a new website, urbanaparks.org, with a fantastic new look, including an ADA accessibility program so more people can navigate the website. There's translation services. Just press a button and read the website in a foreign language. Want to register for an Urbana Park District class or program online? It's easier to use. Urbana Park District, you belong here. Check out the new website, urbanaparks.org.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi from Nashville, Tennessee. It's the Music City Bowl on ESPN. Missouri's rallied from a 10-point deficit, courtesy of a Joshua Manning 4-yard touchdown run and a Blake Craig 51-yard field goal. Tigers and Iowa tied at 24, just under 10 minutes left in regulation. The Chiefs, having already wrapped up the AFC's 1 seed, expected to rest key starters against the Broncos in Sunday's regular season finale. Those starters would then have 24 days of rest before hosting a divisional round playoff game, the first step toward a three-peat, a feat that will not be easy for Patrick Mahomes and company, says ESPN NFL analyst Rex Ryan.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, they are playing at their best right now, which is a great thing, heading into the playoffs, and we've seen them do it, several times before. But no, I think this is going to be a super competitive playoffs, and by no means are they assured of getting back to the Super Bowl.
Bills quarterback Josh Allen will start this week against the Patriots to keep his consecutive start streak up to 115. Then he'll soon come off the field. Buffalo already locked into the AFC's 2 seed.
Hey, it's Courtney Cronin. Coming up on Tuesday on Unsportsmanlike, the NFC North is the best division in the NFL. But how sure are we that that's where the Super Bowl champion will come from? We'll answer that on Unsportsmanlike Tuesday, 6 a.m. Eastern, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
I mentioned earlier about what this ballpark looked like before. And there were the ice plants I mentioned and the views of the hills, but let's put a little bit finer point on it. I want you to try and picture what this looked like. So would come out of this vast parking lot, you'd walk through the gates to the stadium into this massive concrete building. But what would play out before you was, first of all, the greenest of grasses, right? The contrast with all this gray concrete and this green grass that was always just meticulously maintained, even before that became the norm in Major League Baseball. But you'd have that, and then you'd look out towards center field and you'd see this semicircle essentially of ice plant and purple and red and yellow flowers popping out. And then beyond that, you would look out and you would see the purple hills of Oakland in the background. You had this ballpark situated in such a place that it was really something. It was one of the better views and venues in major professional sports at that time, before there were waterfront ballparks and all that. This was a great place to watch a game. And then Mount Davis was built, and that view was completely obstructed, completely lost. And this was all happening. This was being built while the A's were actually playing. And so they were like actively destroying a baseball park while there was a game being played, day after day. Remember, this was one of the sticking points for 13, 15, almost 2 decades earlier, when the city and the county let the Raiders leave. That there was always this discussion about capacity and how they would get it, but they didn't want to destroy the ambiance for baseball. A decade later, they caved. The city caved into Al Davis, and they lost a baseball stadium that was always comfortable and welcoming. Al Davis got his luxury suites, he got bigger capacity, but he destroyed the park in the process. But Clinton, as bad as that was, the bigger problem was the financial aspect of this. The city and the county, which again each owned half of this property, they took out giant loans to pay for the construction of this. I mean, we're talking $350 million when it was all said and done. And they were doing that because they believed the projections that they got from Al Davis and the Raiders that said all these new seats would bring in big increase in revenue, and for both the team, of course, and for the city. But, a key part of this was something that was relatively new at the time, which was personal seat licenses or PSLs. This was like a new sales strategy teams started using in the 90s. And what it meant was that you had to essentially put money up, as a lot of money, as much as $4,000 per season, just for the right to be a season ticket holder. So that was this newfangled way that these teams decided that they would be able to raise money and get a lot of it up front. But the problem is that only works if everyone buys in. It's a supply and demand, right? So if you create this 75,000 seat stadium and you can only sell 40,000 seat licenses, then you've got 35,000 seats that are going at single game prices every week. Who's going to buy that personal seat license after that first year when they know that they don't have to? They can go to every game without doing that. And you've still got these fans who are jaded. This team had left once before, so it was doubly hard to convince these people to fork over this much money up front for a product that they weren't sure was committed to them.
So quickly, just to recap, the ambiance of the stadium has been ruined. And in the process of ruining that ambiance, the city and county have put themselves in a huge financial hole. Knowing that, Tim, it's not really hard to imagine how this all goes south.
No, that's absolutely right, Clinton. And the thing we have to remember is that local government, they didn't have to do any of this in the first place. They signed up willingly into this project. And I think they did it because they felt it was their one chance to revise history and return Oakland to what they felt was its rightful place as the home of 3 major professional sports franchises. But, when they signed on, they did it because they believed what Al Davis and the Raiders were telling them about this windfall that was going to fall from the sky, literally from Mount Davis. And I would imagine in retrospect that many of them wish they'd been a little more skeptical and done a little bit more research on those projections, but they weren't and they didn't. But, let's look and take stock of what this means for what would come next. The city and county had to pay $20 million a year to retire that debt. Back when they were really in bad shape, both financially and at such a loss with this stadium, they had to cut essential services in the city, like police and fire, like really essential stuff to make it happen. And that means that they obviously didn't have any extra money sitting around to pay for the next stadium idea that came from the next disgruntled owner down the line. So you've got the ballpark that people don't like because you've ruined it. How do you think that's going to work out when they start complaining that the ballpark is the reason people don't buy tickets and come to games? When they start saying that without a new stadium, they can't compete with other teams in the league, then what's going to happen?
The commissioner of baseball is questioning again whether the A's can stay in Oakland.
It just doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm not positive.
It is looking more and more like the deck is stacked against the Raiders staying in Oakland.
How many times can I tell you that we're trying to stay in Oakland? How many times can I tell you that?
We want him to sell the team to a local owner that's going to invest in the community and in the team.
They basically blackballed us. They issued an internal cease and desist all communication.
Oakland Police Department escorted me out of the stadium.
They basically fucked with the completely wrong group and the wrong fan base.
Are you ready to make a difference for the environment while helping the visually impaired at the same time? Then donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind today by calling 1-800-983-6530. Every donated vehicle will either be properly recycled in an eco-friendly manner or given a new life through reuse. Donating your vehicle is easy. Simply call 1-800-983-6530 and Heritage for the Blind will do the rest. They'll even arrange for your vehicle to be picked up at no cost to you. And for a limited time, when you donate your car, you'll receive a $200 restaurant voucher and a 2-night, 3-day hotel stay at one of 50 locations. Call 1-800-983-6530 right now to schedule your vehicle donation and make a positive impact on the environment while helping others. Heritage for the Blind, where every car donation counts and every person makes a difference. Call 1-800-983-6530 now. This advertisement is paid for by Heritage for the Blind.
It's Harry Lyles Jr., today's host of the College Game Day podcast. On the latest episode, Pete Thamel, Heather Dinich, and I talk about the 12-team playoff and the games we're looking forward to in the quarterfinal. Tune into College Game Day wherever you get your podcasts.
ABC Hockey Weekend is back.
There's going to be stars everywhere on the ice.
Saturday, the Rangers.
Artemi Panarin, he's a game changer.
Visit the Capitals.
This is the best goal scorer the game has ever seen.
Then, Sunday, the Blue Shirts conclude their road trip in Chicago. That's hockey. ABC Hockey Weekend presented by Expedia. Rangers Capitals, Saturday at noon Eastern. Then Rangers Blackhawks, Sunday at 3 Eastern on ABC and ESPN+.
Buckle up and get ready for all the heart. College basketball better than ever. This is must-watch television and all the love.
The most electrifying players in the nation.
For all the moments.
My goodness, a show-stopping highlight.
And all we are. Come for it all. ACC Women's College Basketball. All season long on ACCN.
Kevin, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Let me be clear about one thing. Because we've moved the goalpost with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and rightfully so because of what we've seen from Russell Wilson. If they are one and done in the postseason, that would be underachieving for this team. And we haven't been able to say that about Mike Tomlin coach teams in the past half decade. And that's why I think it has to be a discussion moving forward.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. The college football playoff has arrived. Georgia versus Notre Dame.
There's a different feel to the playoff.
Boise State versus Penn State.
The stakes get much higher.
Oregon versus Ohio State.
The intensity that gets ratcheted up.
Arizona State versus Texas.
The magic continues.
The college football playoff quarterfinals.
You can feel the electricity.
New Year's Eve and New Year's Day on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
You could just watch ESPN, but why not tap in? Tap into all your sports in one spot with the ESPN app. Tap into articles, analysis, and content with ESPN Plus. Tap into who's who and who should be in your lineup with ESPN Fantasy.
What a monster week we saw.
Tap into every, all the, and never miss the
breaking news.
Because once you tap in, you're tapped in. ESPN.
Bam!
Amber and Ian.
Dan Lanning, head coach of the Ducks, here with us on ESPN Radio. Oregon is undefeated. They're number one, yet they get the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee. People are saying that that's a flaw in this system. How do you feel?
What an opportunity, man. We get a chance to go play some of the best teams in the nation, and it's not supposed to be easy to get to a national championship, but that's the furthest thing from my mind right now. Like, I'm focused on what's next for us.
Amber and Ian, weeknights at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
I'm Michelle Steele hosting ESPN Daily this week. Every weekday morning, we bring you the best sports story you'll hear all day. Today on ESPN Daily, we're revisiting one of the biggest stories of the year via our 5-part series, Death of a Sports Town. In episode 3, we set aside all the drama between owners and executives and politicians and put the focus where it belongs, on the fans in Oakland who will soon be left behind. That's ESPN Daily. Follow us and listen wherever you get good podcasts.
ABC Hockey Weekend is back.
There's going to be stars everywhere on the ice.
Saturday, the Rangers.
Artemi Panarin, he's a game changer.
Visit the Capitals.
This is the best goal scorer the game has ever seen.
Then, Sunday, the Blue Shirts conclude their road trip in Chicago. That's hockey. ABC Hockey Weekend presented by Expedia. Rangers Capitals, Saturday at noon Eastern. Then Rangers Blackhawks, Sunday at 3 Eastern on ABC and ESPN Plus.
The Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny.
If you were the Bears and you said, we want a team builder, maybe you think it's Mike Vrabel. You have to really believe he can find the right guy on offense. I do still see the appeal of the offensive guy because at least you know what you're getting. If you get the culture guy, you have to also believe that he's going to make the right hire. So it's kind of like 2 hires as opposed to 1.
Check out The Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
This is ESPN Daily. Tim Kewen, we are now kicking off part 2 of our story on the death of Oakland as a big-time sports town. Can you recap for the folks where we left off last week?
Yeah, sure, Clinton. I think last week we left off by explaining how the Raiders returned to the city in 1995 after a 13-year run in Los Angeles proved to be a fateful decision with many dominoes in its path. I think the circumstances around that return, mostly the addition of a new deck at the Coliseum, it ruined the atmosphere of that stadium. The A's were definitely not happy about this, quote, new and improved stadium. And the projected financial windfall that the Raiders promised and that the city hoped for never materialized. And it all set the stage for this decades-long drama between the Oakland teams and the city. And that drama will be the scope of our conversation today.
Mount Davis is, I believe, the term that you used, which I always found fascinating. But, even though so much of this discussion is focused on the A's and the Raiders as they played in the same place, they weren't the first team to leave. That goes to the Warriors, the one that wasn't playing in that stadium. So if it wasn't complaints about the facility that pushed the Dubs out, why did they choose to make this move?
Well, as we talked about last week, the Warriors had this incredible home court advantage at Oracle Arena. I mean, most people felt it was the best in the league. When they left, they were on a run of 342 consecutive sellouts. Oof. And those weren't all good teams in those 342 games. They sold out that place. It was rocking. They called it Roracle. So you could make money in Oracle Arena and in Oakland. But in 2011, a man named Joe Lacob bought the team with a Hollywood producer named Peter Guber. Lacob was a peninsula guy, which is south of San Francisco in the wealthy suburbs that, encompass Silicon Valley. And he was not an Oakland guy. And it only took him 18 months after he bought the team to announce plans to build a new arena in San Francisco. And, this is not this iteration of the Warriors that we see now. This was 3 years before Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green won their first championship. There were other factors involved. San Francisco didn't have this kind of big arena. And so that was kind of this parallel thought in his mind was like, hey, I can build something there and it will serve this purpose for one of the most iconic cities in the world. To be honest, I think Joe Lacob underestimated the impact that moving that team, as they say, 8 miles from Oakland to San Francisco. I think that they didn't get the cultural impact of that move and what it meant to the people of Oakland. They felt that the proximity to Oakland was going to sort of allay some of those fears or some of the retribution that they would get. But they still got plenty of it.
For fans, it's officially the end of an era. The Warriors now a San Francisco fixture.
Why do they have to leave Oakland? Oakland is still very much a part of who the Warriors are and what they represent.
They lose this team, and a team that's done very well and that a lot of people have been able to rally behind. It's just kind of sad.
The fact that they have been so successful has really alleviated some of that, though. It's hard to be mad at a team that keeps winning the way they have with Steph Curry.
It's too bad, too. We could almost do a whole breakout on Oracle alone because that was such a strange confluence of events. As a team that good in that place, and that's when you decide to go. I don't know how you missed the mark on understanding culturally how you messed that up, because even from the outside, it was clear what an advantage that building gave that team, never mind what it meant to the community. But the Warriors announced in 2012 they'd leave. It took 7 years for Chase Center to get built and for that move to go through. In the meantime, the Raiders, as we noted before, Al Davis was probably the biggest reason for the construction of that grandstand. And you mentioned earlier turning the Oakland Coliseum into an albatross from what was a nice baseball facility. So in 2011, Al Davis passes away, and his son Mark takes over the team. That guy is a singular character in the least, from the haircut to the outfits to the look of where he lives. How would you describe him to people who are not in Oakland?
Well, Mark Davis was, first of all, always defined as Al Davis's son, right? And somebody told me, like, hey, what would you feel like if you were in your 50s, you'd never held a job, and yet your father dies and someone hands you $1 billion business and says, here, make it work. That was the Mark Davis. I mean, Mark Davis had, the funny haircut. He ate at P.F. Chang's in Walnut Creek every day. He drove a minivan with a personalized Raiders license plate. I mean, there's always this perception of him and his family as being, a little bit of a carpetbagger, right? Like they didn't ever have both feet, to coin a phrase or steal a phrase, rooted in Oakland. They were always looking for something better, somewhere else that could further the Raider brand. And, there's a sentiment probably with some validity to it that the NFL kind of took Mark by the hand and led him to Vegas. They did a lot to really make that move happen. They wanted Vegas. Goodell wanted Vegas. And, this was if Oakland was the problem, then Vegas turned out to be the solution.
NFL owners, of course, yesterday voted to move the Oakland Raiders out of the Bay Area and to Las Vegas. And emotions have been ranging from indifference to anger.
I could cry right now. I feel helpless. It's heartbreaking.
We're done, man. We're done. We're not going to follow you guys to Vegas. This is it. You guys did us dirty on this one, okay, because you took the money and ran. You took the money and ran when there was
So that was how two of these three teams came to leave Oakland. The fans weren't happy about it. The two ownership groups, they had a plan that was lined up. Firm commitments, financing ready to go and build new stadiums in other cities. The A's, on the other hand, that's a different story. Where would you start that tale, Tim?
Well, Clinton, I think the most compelling story of the Oakland Athletics lies far away from owner suites and, negotiating tables and city council meetings. So I'd like to refocus this story where it belongs, which is in the stands, and take a look at what it was like to be an Oakland sports fan through this decade or 2 decade state of sports purgatory. And, through reporting this out, I spoke to many fans. I've known a lot of them for a while. And, there's one guy that I spent a lot of time with whose personal story really mirrors the story of the A's quest to get a new ballpark built in Oakland. And this is a man by the name of Jorge Leon. Jorge's been an A's fan as long as he can remember, and he's lived with this sense of impending doom, this cloud of relocation hanging over the A's going back to his formative years.
I wrote a paper in high school in 1998 to try and keep the A's in Oakland in 1998. So it's always been in the back of my head where, if the A's were always going to the playoffs, I would tell my friends or my family, that's good, but I'd rather them stay in Oakland.
And Jorge has kind of always had an activist streak in him, which would become a key inspiration for the path he eventually chose to walk here when it came to his fandom for his local teams.
Oaklander, for some reason, is born with these roots of activism. You look at the Black Panther movement, the Brown Berets. I mean, everything that sparks anything in the nation. In high school, I led a lot of walkouts because of the war in Iraq, and everyone says, well, why are you doing it? They don't listen to you or whatever. I tell them hey, I'd rather do something than just sit on my ass and not do anything at all.
When did that propensity towards activism intersect with him actually being an A's fan?
Well, I think that, Jorge started looking at what was happening to his team and to its fans. And one aspect that I think kind of galvanized his activism came in 2005 when the A's were sold to Lou Wolf and John Fisher. Lou Wolf was a local real estate developer, and he actually ran the team for many years as the managing partner. But John Fisher has always been the bigger stakeholder. And Fisher's money came from his family. His parents founded the Gap clothing store. So he's not that much different from Mark Davis in the way that he came about his wealth. But once Wolf and Fisher took over, that's when talk of moving kicked into higher gear. That was when Jorge sort of began to find his true calling.
The day I realized that was probably when they were trying to move to San Jose.
Spring training is only 2 weeks away, and the Oakland A's are still fighting for the right to move down to San Jose.
And now the city of San Jose is suing to allow the A's to relocate there.
The sign I put up was Lou Wolf lied, he never tried.
So this is a sign that Jorge brought to the ballpark and was waving around in the stands for everyone to see. And the sentiment he was expressing was clear. Wolf had said all the right things about staying in Oakland when he bought the team and in the first year that he owned it, but behind the scenes, he was working to get something better somewhere else.
But then when I put Lou Wolf Light, He Never Tried, is when I started getting scrutinized more by security. And they made me take it down. They made the Oakland Police Department kind of escort me out of the stadium. And then at that time, the city attorney put out a letter saying that you cannot use city police officers to escort fans out for expressing the freedom of speech. And I think that kind of took off from there. I was like, oh, that's how you get attention, right? That's when I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start hanging signs until I push the button, and they're going to look bad.
Tim, let's step back for a minute before we get too much further, because the where is this team going to play question is a long and winding road. And I gather that the frustrations of this process are what motivated Jorge to get on his soapbox, but just how many different cycles of stadium proposals and speculations has he and everyone in Oakland had to live through?
So we'll keep this to the modern era of the Lou Wolf, John Fisher ownership. First it was San Jose, which they had an actual sponsorship agreement in place for a non-existent stadium until the Giants stepped in and said, hey, hold on, that's our territorial rights. You can't have San Jose because when we agreed to stay in 1992, the commissioner's office gave us San Jose as part of our market. The next one was Fremont, which is a suburb south of Oakland, that never really gained any traction. They said they were going to move to near Lake Merritt, beautiful site on a property owned by Laney Community College. The problem was they forgot or failed to contact Laney Community College in advance to say, hey, what do you think about putting a 35,000 seat ballpark on your property? Laney College didn't want that. So that was basically dead on arrival, and they wasted probably 1.5 to 2 years playing around with that idea.
You promised.
I took the garbage out.
No, I'm talking about all the work we need to get done around here.
I know. We need to do replacement windows.
How about a new bathroom and some overdue remodeling?
And how are we supposed to pay for all
My
that?
sister said she called remodeling loans, and they were able to find her certified contractors.
That's great. How'd she get the money to pay for all that?
Remodeling loans are offered 0 interest for 60 months. They even have payment plans with 0 down and 0 deposit.
Looks like we're getting a home makeover.
Great. Now, if I only knew someone to call for a husband makeover.
Really?
Remodeling Loans is the #1 leader in home improvement financing. Call 800-921-1403 today for a no credit check, no risk approval. Get approved today and we'll match you with the best contractors in your area. And remember, no deposit financing is now available. Call 800-921-1403. 800-921-1403.
I'm Michelle Steele hosting ESPN Daily this week. Every weekday morning, we bring you the best sports story you'll hear all day. Today on ESPN Daily, we're revisiting one of the biggest stories of the year via our 5-part series, Death of a Sports Town. In episode 3, we set aside all the drama between owners and executives and politicians and put the focus where it belongs, on the fans in Oakland will soon be left behind. That's ESPN Daily. Follow us and listen wherever you get good podcasts.
You could just watch ESPN, but why not tap in? Tap into all your sports in one spot with the ESPN app. Tap into articles, analysis, and content with ESPN Plus. Tap into who's who and who should be in your lineup with ESPN Fantasy.
What a monster week we saw.
Tap into every, all the, and never miss the
breaking news.
Because once you tap in, you're tapped in. ESPN.
Bam!
And ESPN Radio Extra Point with Courtney Cronin.
The MVP chants, the energy inside Lincoln Financial Field yesterday to watch Saquon have this moment. It almost gives you chills realizing how rare something like this is.
Which is what's going to make the MVP race really interesting, right? I mean, Lamar Jackson's played incredible football, but do people want to give him a third MVP? Josh Allen, we know what he is. Joe Burrow, obviously there's a conversation there, but if Saquon breaks the all-time rushing record, I think a lot of people will be moved by that. Maybe not Eric Dickerson, but I think a lot of other people will be moved by that moment. It's just in this era, I think it's far more difficult to do what Saquon Barkley has done than the other guys, even Adrian Peterson, who was just going to get carry after carry, and the goal was to hit 2,000. Whereas Saquon is playing, to your point, with all of these other talented folks, and yet he's still